That's not us.
Oh, that's not you? There you go.
Hey, we got it. We got it.
Let me turn the sound up. Awesome, man. We're good.
All right. Sorry about that little bit of our technology confusion here. This is we're still
expected it.
You got a sweet gig up behind you, man. I was just we could see you and you couldn't see us, but that looks awesome back there.
Oh, thanks, man. This is where I make all my music and do all my live streams. The other side of the room you can't see is all green screen.
Yeah.
It's the picture when I've seen the ray gun with the whole setup and everything. It's the coolest setup ever, man. It's
Yeah. I turned that whole half of my studio. Here, I'll just turn you and you can look. It's all green screen.
Oh wow, that is so cool. That is so cool.
What are you using that for?
I figured if we were locked up for an infinite amount of time, I might as well just turn half the studio into a TV studio.
Absolutely.
So I can, still connect with people, you know.
Well, so I guess first of all, because we know who you are, and anybody tuning in on our profile might not know who you are. So you are the melting man, Anthony Hudson from London, Ontario. Incredibly London, one of the longest running DJs I've ever had the personal interaction to meet, and you've been holding down this scene for almost 30 years.
Yeah, it's getting close to that for sure.
It's absolutely insane, man. You also make music. You do content every week. You're all about the interaction with the people. You know what? You also work for a radio station. You have your own. It's the list goes on and on and on.
So yeah. I want to give you like 2 seconds of context of who we actually are and why Drivewire exists. And then I want to hear your whole story. Like, I'm really excited for this. So what Drivewire, like the inception came down to is we were talking, basically, I was talking to people before they graduated school and in music school, like amazingly talented people, like 10 out of 10, amazingly talented. And unfortunately, they didn't really know what they wanted to do after school. And so I really want to find people who have succeeded in being able to support themselves and bring the information of how to actually make the money, how to actually earn your life, earn your keep, because there's a lot more than talent. Like, talent gets you in the door, but you got to get, to the top floor kind of thing. So there's a lot more than that. And so I always have a huge amount of respect for someone who's been physically and literally in the industry for this long. It's really, really cool, man. So with that said, how did you start and how did you get where you're like, give us the story?
I mean, if you want, right from the beginning, I was a hairdresser when I came to London and I was like 18 years old. that was the day job.
Okay, so that was the day job. I love that.
That puts the money in the bank now.
Anyways, and a couple of the other hairdresser girls that were there wanted me to DJ their party, and I was like, I'm not a DJ. And I was starting to make music at that point. It was mostly industrial, kind of 9 Inch Nails style back then. And they were like, no, you got lots of music and just come and DJ. And they one of the local clubs let us in and let us have their way. And I just started DJing from there on in. And I've been doing it ever since. That would have been like 90, 91.
Wow. And just kind of started, like, was it just like, just show up with some music, play the music and make it ride the vibe, make everybody like, you just enjoy the presence? How did that kind of end up forming itself, the DJing? Like what because technology is taking over the world nowadays in comparison to what DJing is now. What was that like?
Well, here's the thing. Back then, and the club that let us do that night, way back then, every Monday night at that same club, John Aquaviva, who's huge now, he's like a massive, he's one of the owners of Plus 8 Records, and he's a massive techno fan. We don't know who he is. He was actually DJing at this club on Monday nights, a packed Monday night, and it was all kind of like, back then it was like everything from In Excess to Nitzareb, Mars. Also, he was really laying down cool stuff before it was cool, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I grew up on him the first year I got here, and then basically he took off to do his techno thing, and I kind of took over at that club doing that, and it was a good starting ground for me.
That's a really cool. Absolutely. Yeah, I love what Crawford says. Fill the hole. Like, someone left, and you were able to actually like be the next progeny of something that was already in demand.
Yeah, and he was like so great, and I mean he still is. I still contact him once in a while now. and yeah, I just kind of took his route and I went a different way a little bit. I got signed. I started doing music. I did a few industrial records under the name H, and we did that. I worked with Anthony Valsic out in Vancouver. He was, at the time, he was famous for producing Frontline Assembly, and he'd worked with Skinny Puppy and guys like that because I was into the industrial sound.
Yeah.
So worked with him, and then on my second album, I was working with Dan Broadbeck, who's London Juno Award winner guy here. He's amazing. He now teaches the MIA course.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
That's a fan
Back
shop.
then, he was just a studio guy, so it was amazing. So I learned from him too. I had a lot of good teachers on the way up, and then we were working with everybody back then, like Sons of Freedom, National Velvet, all the Gandharvas, everybody, like all sorts of people from back in the '90s, and Boot Sauce. I mean, all sorts of. I don't know if any of these names. You might not remember any of these names. I don't know because it was so long ago. But yeah, and then I worked for Much Music for a little while doing the bumpers and stuff. Like, I don't know if you remember Snow Jam. They used to have Snow Jam all the time on Much Music.
The Much Music days, those were some of the highlights of my youth. Like, those were the better days. That's when music really was TV, and you know it was just real. It was real. It wasn't all this. I don't know what it is nowadays, but.
Yeah, and so I switched over from the industrial thing and started calling myself the Incredible Melting Man. And that's when I mean, back then, raves and rave music and electronic music was just sort of finding itself into like crossing over a bit into the mainstream.
Yeah.
I put a couple of singles together, shopped them in Europe, and got a European record deal with Dust to Dust Records.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I got another record deal with this guy Shaq, who calls himself Elite Force, and he also was in a band called Lunatic Com at the time, and he kind of took me under his wing as well. To put it in perspective, his music is the scene in the dojo in the first Matrix movie. That doon 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 doon. That's him. So he took me under his wing a little bit, and we've been friends since. But I'm trying to like condense it all. And I mean, I was on Electric Circus a bunch of times as a guest DJ, and I started the Melting Man thing. Got onto DJ Magazine's Beats and Breaks chart. I was in there with Fatboy Slim, guys like that, Crystal Method, and that's back when there was really no internet yet. I had to run to the local chapters and find a copy of DJ Magazine to see if I was on the chart.
Yeah, like you had to purchase it to then read it to see if it was on the chart or not.
Yeah, and it was all vinyl back then too. So, and then I started my own vinyl label in Toronto called Two Wars and a Revolution, and we were doing breakbeat stuff back then, which was very popular. That Crystal Method sort of Lunatic Com sound.
Yeah.
Chemical Brothers type feel.
So how did the name Melting Man end up coming on? Like, was it just a hot club and you're just like, man, I'm making all these people sweat. I'm the Melting Man. Like, what? You know, like.
It's funny because when it came time to name yourself, and back then, especially in the break scene, which I was in, you had to have a name that jumped out. The names were all like superhero names, basically. And I remembered I remember being a little kid in the late 70s and seeing the Incredible Melting Man move.
All right.
Boom, we're back. Sorry about that.
Yo, this is much better. Put a blast out or something, text the people. Okay, sweet. Okay. So far, we have established that you started out as a hairdresser. You switched over, which is actually awesome. Good, because it's creative. It's creative.
Definitely.
As much as we love to interview musicians, because I'm a musician, Crawford is a big fan of music. We've had on like yoga instructors. We've had on photographers and videographers and lawyers. It's anything creative. You might. So
where I left off was the Melting Man comment, how the name Melting Man ended up coming to be. And then everything went sideways, the bus flipped, and then Instagram said, we don't want to know, but I want to know.
And with these live streams,
is there something that comes with it? Is Melting Man have a thing? Like, are you like, you got particular lights? Do you have a particular style? Is like, am I expecting something when I come to see Melting Man?
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. It's like I was saying in the little bio thing that I sent to Andrew. The thing about that name, I've started using it for everything. I do a lot of retro and throwback type nights in London. So in London, I'm pretty well known for that. outside of London and everywhere else in Europe and in the States and Canada, I'm known for back in the 90s, early 2000s, it was breakbeats. So like that Chemical Brothers feel, Crystal Method type stuff. That evolved into a little more of a housey vibe with the four on the floor, and now it's called bass house that I do. So it's like basically house beats that are four on the floor, but with really good bass lines, like really thick, interesting bass lines, like stuff that's dirty and filthy sounding. It's great.
It just gets your earlobes kind of just going. Like it sounds that good. I like dirty music, so that that's.
Yeah, everything I do, it's kind of always going to have that grit to it and that and an edge to it. So I don't generally go too soft on anything. But yeah, the stuff I'm doing now is like funky and bassy, and I'm changing my sound all the time, but it usually happens in about 5-year chunks.
Constantly evolving, kind of when the scene evolves, being ahead of the scene as it's changing.
Yeah, when you've been doing it as long as I have, there's no choice. It has to evolve, or else I'll get bored, and like people will get bored that listen to me and that kind of thing. So
it's true. That's true.
It's kind of a dual-edged sword, right? Like if you don't change at all, then everyone's gonna get bored of hearing the exact same music. But if you change too much, they might be like, "Whoa, this is fucking way too weird," and I'm out. Like I don't even want to. So
very small. It's a sensitive line.
How do you dance on that line? What is it like for you?
It's like I said. I think the common thread with everything I've done, as far as my original music goes, the common thread is like gritty bass lines, like stuff that's thick, bassy, a lot of rhythm to it, and I find whether it's breakbeat or fidget or house or bass house, whatever I'm doing at the time, I try to keep it accessible at the same time as it's edgy, and it's worked well for me so far. I mean, just keep the quality up and keep it fun and different, and people, it's been really great following me. I've had great luck with my people still sticking with me.
Well, as I say, and that was one of the things that I've noticed a lot within quarantine time is, you've never stopped engaging with the people, the fans. You've been actively, you respond to people. You give them shout outs during the shows, you take requests, you make the show all about the people. And I feel like that's one area where you just absolutely nail it is, without the people, there is no Melty, but without Melty, there is no people, because without, you're like glue together, and it works just so well.
It's and like one of my and it doesn't matter where anyone's from. I mean, as soon as you walk into that chat room, if I'm spinning, everybody welcomes you. Like everybody there's excited to see new people and meet them and stuff. And I just try to keep it like that, keep it friendly. I see some of these electronic chat rooms when the guy's spinning and they're just dissing the guy all the way through. And angry at each other for some reason.
And and that's not there's no room for that in these shows. There's no room for that because it's all good energies.
Yeah.
You say chat room. Are you doing it online?
That was going to be actually my follow-up point.
I've completely evolved into a live streamer now.
Wow.
Out of necessity, I had to evolve when this pandemic hit. So, and I mean, I basically put everything I have into making it look cool, sound good. Like I do my live streams right through everything in my studio, so it's going through like an Apogee duet. It sounds perfect. Like the sound. I don't know if you've watched any of the electronic live streams, but the bass is there. Like even if you're listening on a phone, you can hear the bass, and that's so important with that style. So the reason that we end up having to start, obviously with this pandemic, it all started with Call the Office NEC Productions. With the Ray Gun Sundays. Yeah. There's that. So can we explain that to the people that if anybody's ever in the London scene or looking, you got this shirt, shameless self-promotion.
Hey, you have to, you got it.
My wife told me to wear it. Like, why not?
Well, no, obviously it makes sense, right? If it's your brand, it's your stuff, it's you, man. Why not, right? I wish I owned Fox. Unfortunately, I don't. I don't have a Crofner t-shirt. I wish I did. Now, you gave me an idea here. How did the whole Call the Office thing start? Because I've been there. I've been at a few of your shows years ago. Obviously, now that I'm not in London, unfortunately. But what brings that connection with all the people, obviously, and how did you end up kind of getting the Call the Office gig? Because you've held that down for a very long time.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, way back then in the 90s, before we started doing Ray Gun, I was doing like these different incarnations of what it wasn't even called alternative yet back then, but it was like basically we were playing Ministry and The Cure and Skinny Puppy and all that kind of stuff. Way back in the early 90s before Raygun. Raygun was about 93, I think. 90,
Okay.
94. Yeah, and we were a couple years before that. I was doing nights at Call the Office that were like packed, and it was all alternative stuff. So I already had a good rapport with. I mean, there's been multiple owners through the years, but I've always gotten along and survived the ownership takeovers and that place.
With them, you know, you've been able to mingle and kind of cope with the changes, and like, yeah, we can do things differently.
What I was doing was always kind of like different, so they always liked having, and I always brought people in back then too. It's a lot different now. There's no internet, there was none of that going on. There's no competition. You know, like we weren't competing with the internet, basically. But
that's true. It's true.
So Tony Lima, who that might ring a bell. Tony Lima was the booker there, and one of the reasons Call the Office was Call the Office for so long. Tony Lima back then and Drew Evans. It was originally their idea, and I jumped in right from the get-go, and they wanted to keep it a little more alternative, and I was already doing that for so long. I was like, I did the first couple of Ray Guns, and there was people asking for, at the same time as they were asking for Depeche Mode and The Cure, they were also asking for ABBA and Queen and stuff. And I was like, let's do this, you know? So we tried.
Let's do it.
And
Let's
just rammed.
if it
4
works.
weeks, it was rammed like nuts. And 26 years later, it was still, you know, it's still going. So
still, yeah, it's still packed house. And I've even on you know, like some of the when I've watched some of the feeds on the Twitch that have been there, the tunes that you play, you know, they are the classic, and it's those tunes, you know, I can't even believe people fought the ABBA and all that, like all those bands when they were coming up. They're like, we don't need this club, but you play it in a club and you watch the energy and the vibe change just immediately like that. It's just happy, good music.
And like, I think after a few months of doing it and seeing the response, we just decided that the concept would be, well, we play the B-sides, we play the alternative cool stuff at the same time, back to back with the cheesiest of the cheese, because it was funny to us. We thought it was funny. And what was funny to us ended up just being super popular for a really long time.
Yeah, dude. Like if I was playing with a band, and we were playing a bunch of songs that were like closer to blues, and then we broke out Uncle Cracker, Follow Me, and like at the end of that 3.5 minutes, the bar was way more packed because everyone knows the song. They walk in, they like the vibe. It's like, man, maybe there's something to all these like really cheesy, weird songs.
Read the room, right? That's all we were doing. We were just reading the room.
Seriously, man.
You know, started making sure that we connected with everybody who made a request as well, as much as we could anyways. So like, I still remember some of the people's names from 15, 20 years ago. Like, I mean, it's crazy. You know, and they show up in the chat room now that we're doing it live, like, or I'm saying we, but now that I'm doing it on the live stream, it's,
there is no we anymore. This is
because they weren't able to before because they were getting older. They have kids and they have, you know, jobs and stuff. Now they can just tune in and say hi, and it's just like the old days.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
That is awesome.
How important would you say building those relationships was for you in the early days?
Oh, I mean, there's no reason for me to be there if they're not there. So I mean, I felt like I should be at least getting to know them and letting them shape the night with me, you know? Like, sometimes they would ask for stuff that I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that right now. And I wouldn't have thought of that if that person wasn't in the mood to hear, like, you know, Fat Bottom Girls by Queen or something.
Great tune. You're only dropping fire, too. You're referencing hot tracks left, right, and center. Shit, you know, and then the band, you're dropping some sleeper bands in there, you know? Oh, my goodness. One of the things that I did want to ask you, Anthony, because I should say, can I formally say Anthony? Should I say Melty? I want to address it like in the best way possible to promote it. Melting Man, tell me about. I'm looking at my notes here because I have my reference notes. Filthy Bass, DIFM.
Yeah, Filthy Bass was something I started a few years ago. I guess it's at least a few years ago. You know what? It's probably been about 8 years. Is there? Can you hear a leaf blower? Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, we're gonna close the window. Sorry, we weren't expecting that.
so many problems all the time, brother.
You can plan, and you cannot script what's gonna happen.
The same thing happened to me 10 minutes before we were gonna go live. somebody out back here did the same thing. Leaf blower over there. Yeah.
It's like what I've never understood the leaf blower's point, but I get it.
After 26,
so I just shut the window and it goes, and it's like
airtight, closed, not silent. We fell off the window.
There we go. The suction cups having problems. I don't know where we're at. Holy bro, there we go.
Need a better selfie stick.
We definitely do.
I guess so.
After 26, 30 years of experience in the industry, I want to like, have you had any, like, it's got to be different than what you thought it was going to be going into it. So what are some major lessons that you like do different now that you're like, damn, I'm really happy I made that change?
Oh, it's tough. That's a tough one. I would probably teach myself or learn more about publishing and that kind of thing at the get-go, at the beginning. You know, it's the same thing everybody probably says. I mean, it's complicated almost on purpose, and there's a million different levels. There's copyright, there's publishing, there's licensing. There's so much to learn. And when you're younger, in your 20s, you don't really care about that stuff. You don't even want to know about it.
You just want to shoot that music out.
One thing I would say is in my 20s, when I was full of testosterone and thought I was bigger than I was, I would like to say, like, if opportunities roll up on you, you know, to look at it more open-mindedly and put ego aside. Ego is useless in this business. I mean, you should just be open to everything. I mean, I turned down a few things I wish I'd done, and you know, that kind of thing. That's all I can say. But for the most part, everything that happened over the last 25 years, I'm pretty grateful that I got to travel and tour as a DJ and that kind of stuff. I got toured as a band as well, which was terrifying at times, with 7 guys in a panel van with lighting and gear and sound, and driving through the mountains in Vancouver in snowstorms.
Oh, jeez.
Terrifying, but fun.
It's No, it is very important, man. That has actually come up a few times with different bands and producers. Even we've had some producers in. Scott Middleton was a huge one. We had, David Heyman, Kevin Dietz, just to name a few. And publishing came up with, I swear, all 3 of them. Where like you said, the different layers of complexity. Who owns what? Yeah. Publishing. Who gets to publish what? Who owns what publishes where?
In your words, why do you think that's so important?
Well, it's just because it's so mysterious when you're in your 20s and nobody's really, well, back when I was in my 20s anyways, you didn't have Google. You couldn't just Google it and learn it. Somebody had to tell you about it and teach you about it. And, I've been to a couple of lawyers. I've had a couple of lawyers during my time, and they always just kind of took care of stuff for me. So I really never learned what I was doing or what was happening with all this publishing and that kind of stuff. And I mean, that's the only thing. I mean, nowadays artists can just Google stuff and get a lot better idea of what's going on. But I just wish I'd understood it better back then. Yeah. But
it's wildly important.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things, like, we really do see ourselves as like an educational platform where we're trying to make sure that we don't skim over the smaller stuff, like a publishing agreement or like like a sync license, how to get your music into a movie or a video or like
commercials.
Those are important things. If you're gonna get in the public eye, you got to get in the public eye.
Yeah, for sure. And
if you do that,
making sure that your credit. I mean, there was a couple of things, I won't name what things, but there's a couple of things I've done in the past where I didn't even get credit for them, and I was supposed to. It was supposed to say Melting Man Remix. It never did.
Wow.
And that little things like that. I mean, that's where having something in paper before you do a remix or something comes in handy, because you might.
Definitely.
They might
for the actual proper credit to be given. Yeah. It's like, well, then why did all that work to get no reward, no credit, no nothing? Like, what was that for?
That was a lesson learned for sure. I won't say it was more, but like
that's what it is, though. It ends up being a lesson. You end up reflecting, learning, and then never making the same mistake in the future again. That's what it is. It's never something that's it's just one of those things I'll put in the past. If you put it in the past but don't learn on it, then it's going to probably reoccur in the future, and that's that's the best thing to do is to learn.
You don't want to put a weekend on a remix and then you're excited when it comes out and your name's not on it. It's just just get something in writing first, usually.
So
or at least
there was a few.
Get an email to say.
Or an email, a paper trail of some sort. Put in words somewhere. one of the questions that I did want to ask you, because I know it was only just a few years ago that the Junos ended up coming to London, which was absolutely incredible. You yourself have worked with quite a few Juno people, and I believe you yourself have even.
No, I don't have a Juno or anything. I've
okay, no, sorry. I was pulling that one out there. I was pulling that one out there. I'm like, maybe like he deserves it. Like.
Thank you.
My words, not
making
yours.
music, so there's time.
There's time, lots of time. So what was that experience like working with, being able to work and just being in those seats to work with people, you're so highly credited yourself and, so highly respected up there to be, working with, people of that caliber. Like what is it like to kind of have those collaborative moments?
I think for me, just try to turn yourself into a giant sponge the whole time you're next to somebody who you feel is like got something to offer. And just pay attention.
Kind of absorbing the information, anything they say.
I mean, like I said, when I was younger and in the studio with lots of people, I got to meet all sorts of legendary people, especially out in Vancouver. We would do the music weeks out there. Oh yeah, we were on the same
huge events.
Cassette. This is funny. They put cassettes out at the time for Music Week in Vancouver, and it was 8th, and it was our song, and then Moist Push wasn't out yet. And that thing on the thing, and there was like a whole bunch of bands on there. But I just remember we were right next to Moist, and we got to meet those.
Right next.
This is crazy.
Wow.
But like, just be
that's
a sponge.
So cool.
Just be a sponge. Like when Anthony Valsic was mixing for us. I mean, one of the greatest things that I remember was I was mixing stuff for another band called Wax Bean Orchard back in the day, and when Anthony Valsic came down and he was mixing my tune. We were having a break, and I played him when I had been mixing and producing for this other band, and he just tapped me on the shoulder and he goes, "You're not going to have any problem getting work if this is what you're doing now." He's like, that just like blew me away, because he's working with Sarah McLachlan. Now he works with like Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson, guys like that. And that one's one of those moments when you're like, oh, that's awesome.
My heart melted. I was just complimented, the ultimate of compliments. Like, oh my God.
So awesome. And honestly, that comment is what really pushed me to keep going and mixing. And I mix tons and tons of stuff now, and I do mastering for all sorts of guys and that kind of thing. They send me their tracks, I master them, send them back, and they put them out.
Isn't that interesting how like a comment from somebody who you appreciate can totally change your life like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll always remember that. He put his hand on my shoulder and he goes, "Yeah, you're not gonna have any trouble in the future getting work." And I was like, "Wow, really?" That's also
it's like, I'm gonna kick ass, and he knows it.
Dan Brabeck was my mentor before that, so I was learning so much from him and his engineers at DB Studios here in London. And like I said, he went on to get a Juno and stuff. So I had no idea at the time he was gonna go that far. But wow.
Just like the fact that he did is it's just so awesome. Then to be able to be there with him and to talk to him, and then be given that compliment, it's the staircase to success right there. And you were already halfway up it, and you just didn't know it yet. And he's like, "Buddy, just keep climbing."
He definitely nudged me. He kicked me in the right direction for sure.
That's fantastic, man. That's fantastic. So the big thing that I obviously we haven't talked about really is the live stream you do. You do that on your Twitch. You have a Twitch channel. Just recently started. I remember that was it was one of those things where it's like, well, if we're getting in a pandemic, we're jumping on the Twitch board and we're making this happen.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I've got 2 channels because I like to keep the retro stuff separate from the bass house and electronic stuff because it's too confusing.
Okay.
Mix them together outside. So
yeah, 2 different brains almost. So.
Yeah. So I do the retro stuff on Ray Gun Sundays. So it's twitch.tv/Ray Gun Sundays. That's where you can see the retro. And for the electronic stuff, I do a lot of stuff with NEC events, but I also have my own channel that's just The Incredible Melty Man, all one word, Twitch, after Twitch TV. Twitch TV /The Incredible Melty Man.
The Incredible Melty Man.
That's where the electronic stuff is. That's where I do my Filthy Bass shows now. I was doing them on DIFM, which is digitally imported radio, for years and years and years. I'm up to episode 115 now. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. So I've been doing that forever, but I'm just switching over to Twitch from them because it's just evolving. It's just it's just the way to go, right? So
it's kind of like Skype. Skype's not the Skype. Oh, we lost Phil again. It's kind of like
I'm just gonna hold it. I'm just gonna hold it. This is
we're on to Zoom
embarrassing.
now. You know, Skype is. Nobody talks to Skype. It's Microsoft. And
every time you drop the camera, I love it. Hilarious.
Man, we have like this like window suction, and it's cool because the light behind the camera at this time of day actually is great for the picture.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know. Maybe that leaf blower's vibrating it enough that it's falling off. I don't know. I don't know, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, do you have any crazy gig stories? Do you have like has like shit gone weird?
Oh man, I gotta think hard on that one. Yeah, I'm sure I do. I mean, just off the top of my head, I played behind a cage and what?
Things are getting choppy. Things are chopping up right now.
Oh.
We're getting a circle. We're getting the famous circle of death.
Oh no, it looks fine.
We're back.
Oh,
we're back.
Okay. You look like a potato, but we can hear you.
Oh, is that right? And just so you know, it looks perfect on my end. You guys are all smooth, so maybe it's just your phone or whatever.
Okay.
Listen,
it might be us. Hopefully.
Before we die, I just want to say I do have a track coming out tomorrow on Beatport. So if you're anywhere interested in checking out my new stuff, tomorrow on Beatport, it will be on Champion Beats Records, and the track's called Too Much, and it's The Incredible Multiman. And then next Thursday, I got a second single coming out as well. I hope you guys are hearing this and not jumping all over the place.
Yeah, we are.
I just wanted to make sure in case we lose the feed again. So I got a new track tomorrow and a new one next Thursday on Beatport, and then in 2 weeks it goes on all the retailers. So it'll be on iTunes.
So can you spell beat like BEATPORT?
Yeah, Beatport. It's the biggest electronic music outlet. So Beatport.
Okay, awesome.
Go there.
Yeah, I love that. I love learning about new music and new outlets. I'm mostly a rock and blues musician, but I do listen to electronic every once in a while. Yeah, I like that.
And if people want to find you,
go check out Beatport because that's the number one. That's the big hub.
That's the place.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that, man.
You also have a website, incrediblemeltingman.com.
Yeah, incrediblemeltingman.com. So you just go there and you can see all my links. So it's got right at the beginning. It's got the SoundCloud,
socials, tweets, Twitch.
All right. So now that we're back on, K-Sauce Bot, I'm not sure who that is, obviously knows you, really did not want you to tell that story, and I want to hear the story they don't want to hear. So hit us up with the crazy club story. We're going back for round 2. What actually happened?
Crazy club story. Oh, that wasn't really a crazy club story. I was just trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, we rolled up into Sudbury one time on the H tour and played behind. It was like, remember Roadhouse, the movie Roadhouse, where Jeff Healy's playing behind the cage? That's what we were doing. Yeah. Except we were playing music that sounded more like Nine Inch Nails, but we were behind the cage, and it's probably a good thing we were behind a cage because when beer bottles fly at you, they bounce on you, get a little wet, but that's all.
That's messed up, man.
Oh man, that is great. That is
actually crazy.
Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got experiences like that, though. You know, and it's fun to live and just be like, you know what? That's what helped make this to get me to where I am, because it's like that kind of made people a little pissed, and I kind of like being a little. I like that tension. I like that people are noticing it though too.
Yeah, we used to roll up in. Well, I mean, it's not really a good story, but one of the Melty-Man shows I did was in Toronto at some big museum type thing, and it was put on by Smirnoff. And I'm telling you right now, the green room for that Smirnoff show was ridiculous. Like the walls were lined with every vodka you've ever seen, and you can just imagine how that was consumption. I sat in a room at the end of the night. I was trying to get paid, and I sat in a room. And you guys, this might not mean anything to you guys since you're not really into all the deep electronic stuff, but I was sitting in a room with like Derek Carter, Anna Kiss. Oh my God! Like the whole room was just filled with these legendary DJs.
DJs, yeah.
Yeah, and me, and I'm sitting there, but they were making us wait an infinite amount of time to get paid that night. It was like almost 6 in the morning after this huge rave, and everybody's been drinking all night. We're in there, and I thought these guys are gonna figure out sooner or later that I'm sitting here in this room with them. And at one point, Derek Carter turns and he goes, "Melting Man, why are you so quiet?" I'm like, "How do you know my name? This is a legendary Detroit techno guy." that was nuts. I went home pretty.
That's a good feeling right there. That's a good feeling. That's like being at a party. Yeah.
I like that story, man. That was a good story.
I do like that.
Like I'm not complaining about that story.
That's a good one.
That's tough to tell.
Dude, yeah.
Honestly, man, that's we're hitting 40 minutes. This is this is usually where we try to wrap things up. I've asked, we've got an insane amount of information from you. We've got a lot of helpful things that are, Carter's got a book that we've been writing things down for our entire, the shows.
I got notes. I made notes on you, brother.
It's there's a lot of
yeah, we're gonna sell it. We have we have a couple books now, and it's just like my really messy writing about what our guests have said, and there's a lot of cool stuff. Like I think someone could build a career out of what's in this book. So one day we'll auction it off when Drivewire is huge.
Amazing.
One of the things that I liked the most was become a sponge. Like I really liked that part, man. You also. Yeah, it's so important, and I totally resonate with that. For me, it's with, anybody who I think is better than me at anything, which is almost like everybody's better than me at something, but on those particular skills, I really try and learn from them, which is really important. So
absolutely, like don't be intimidated by somebody else who knows more than you. Just look at it as an opportunity to learn.
Yeah. And a lot of times these people, I've learned that they don't really see themselves as anything special. And a lot of times they actually want to help you get on their level. Like everyone wants to feel the same. So the more of them they can make in this world, the more they'll help you get there. Like it's actually like that.
Story on that tip, if you want to hear
Hit it.
Quick.
Yeah,
Here's
totally.
a great example of that. And this is crazy. This is kind of right when I was just starting to make the industrial music. So this would have been way, way, way back. So it would have been right around 89 or 90. Oh, God, I'm aging myself. I don't age, though, so forget it. Don't try and guess my age. So I was in Detroit at St. Andrews Hall, and my friend Lee, who was the promoter there for a long time, he goes, you have to meet this guy. He's awesome. He's crazy awesome. I'm going to take you to his show, and then I'm going to introduce you after, because I think you guys will get along really well and make the same kind of music. We go to the show. It's 9 Inch Nails, right when Pretty Hate Machine came out. And he takes me backstage at St. Andrews Hall. There wasn't even that many people at the show because it was so early. Introduces me to Trent Reznor, who's sitting just by himself backstage. And Trent's talking to me, and we're talking about music and stuff. And he goes, well, here's my number. Give me a call. He writes it on the back of a pass, and he gives me had like a whole remix CD that wasn't even out yet at the time.
Wasn't even out yet. He's like, here's this unreleased CD with my freaking number on it.
Nuts. And then after that, every time he came to Toronto or to Detroit, I would show up and I would talk to him. So I was standing there was this club in Toronto called Lizard Lounge, and they had a night that was all industrial called Sex on a Sunday. So, and it was a great night. So I'm standing against the bar, and Trent's standing against the bar, and I was like, hey, remember me? I met you in Detroit. And he's like, hey, what's up, brother? And we started talking. I said, well, I'm about to do my album. If I want somebody like Flood's the famous producer that did most of the mixing on that album. If I want Flood to do my record, like, how does that happen? And he goes, I swear to God, phone him up. He's like, just phone him up. That's all I did. That's what Trent said. He goes, I just phoned him up and said, can you listen to my demo and do this thing, and just caught him at the right time and that kind of thing. I learned that was a good lesson to learn. Just like, don't be afraid. And I used
don't
that
be afraid.
with him. I just went up to him and started talking to him. And he was standing there bored at the club because nobody was interacting with him yet. So, but I knew well at that point, because after I met him in Detroit, I listened to the record and went, holy shit. You
guys are good.
So yeah, pretty crazy.
They have some strange techniques.
That's a great example of just go up and ask somebody. It's like you said, a lot of these guys don't think of themselves on the same pedestal as we, looking at them do. So it really can't hurt to just go up and talk to them.
Dude, 100%. And the knowledge, like he gave you his number. Like if you had gone up and asked for his number, he wouldn't have given it to you. But you just started chatting with him, and he's like, yeah, this guy wants knowledge. I'll give it to him. Call me when you want.
Yeah, I mean, he must have just got like a non-threatening vibe off me and realized that I was just another guy like him that was trying to make music, basically.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I've been like that ever since. If anyone ever comes up to me and wants to get advice or talk music and that kind of thing, talk about releases, that kind of thing, I'm 100%. I take the time.
Open book to.
Yeah, anytime, for sure.
That's awesome, man. That's a takeaway lesson right there. You know, it's to cap off the cake of sprinkles and freaking icing. That just right there, it's a perfect thing. Like, you know, just don't be afraid to ask. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Lynn Watson says hello to you, Anthony. I'm not sure who Lynn is, but she obviously likes you. Oh, sweet. There you go. Hi, what's up?
I'm watching the chat stream. I'm so intently trying to answer your questions, but
yeah, dude, I really appreciate that. And we really got a lot out of your knowledge, and I really appreciate you coming on to visit with Drivewire. We'd love to be able to set up maybe something where we can get you reaching out to younger artists and maybe helping mentor them or something like that. So if there's a way that we could get that going, maybe we'll reach out to you and see if there's a way that we can team up.
We want to expand and stuff, so being able to expand down London Way, get a Drivewire footprint all over, and help everybody, it really would ultimately be the best goal.
Absolutely.
I also,
for sure.
Yeah, 100. Well, thank you for that, man. We're really respectful and appreciative of your openness. Lyric Video Lady, I want to also give a shout out to build that relationship as we were talking about. I'm not sure if you know who that is specifically. I'm not sure the name. She's been active in the chat as well.
Nice.
So it's been another person where you got a couple fans here, man. It's good to see.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
All right, man.
The Incredible Melting Man. Go to Beatport. He has a song out today. He has a song on next Thursday. After that, sometime it's going to be available everywhere. I'm really looking forward to it. Maybe you will spiral me back into an electronic vibe for the next month or so and get back into that. It's been a while. Yeah, I get in and out. Yeah, 100%.
It's all good.
That's what it is. No, dude, it comes in waves. It comes in waves. Listen, man, thank you so much for joining us today, okay?
Oh, my pleasure, guys. This was awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, brother.
It was a great chat. Thank you.
Good seeing you, man. Have a great day. Have a good week.
Peace out.
Take care.